Okay, good morning and we are live. Magandang umaga po sa mga Filipino boxing fans. Thank you very much. Again, good morning, good afternoon, good evening to everyone in the world naman. And in just 2 days, we have spoken to Memo Heredia from Las Vegas, back here in the Philippines with boxing prospect Miel Fajardo. And this morning, we're going to the land down under with our friend from Australia. And I know, you know, um, I want to see some comments right here from any of my friends who are going to be watching this from Australia. So please represent. And I don't want to keep you waiting. And let me introduce my guest. Here comes the boom boom pow. Let me introduce our guest today. And he is a former amateur boxer, a TV host, a boxing promoter, and he is also a Australia Boxing Hall of Fame inductee for 2017. Ladies and gentlemen, my friend Peter Maniatis. What's up, my friend? How are you? Okay, I think you're mute. Let me unmute you. All right, let's try it again.
No, I'm great to have you be on the show, pal. Thank you for everything you do for boxing, and great to be on your show. I'm a big fan of the show.
All right, well, thank you very much. I'm a big fan of yours as well. How are you doing?
Yeah, good. We're in lockdown here in Melbourne because we've just had another spike, so we're going to be in lockdown for 6 weeks. So good
Oh,
time to do interviews.
okay. uh, you know, Lockdown again here in the Philippines. I'm not entirely sure, but boxing is about to start in August. Hopefully, nothing, no spikes, because it will be postponed again, and we have not seen live boxing here in the Philippines for some time.
Yeah,
But I heard
fingers
that there's
crossed.
boxing show there, though.
It's up north of Australia. Every state's got different case tolls. Some up north,
Uh,
which is hotter and not as populated. They don't have any cases. We're in Melbourne, where we're like Mexico.
mhm.
We're down the bottom. It's cold, and there's 5, 6 million people, and everyone wants to go and drink and party. So the virus travels a lot down here. So we're having our problems here.
Okay. Well, it looks like the same everywhere when there's crowded. But anyway, glad I met you here. I mean, personally, honored to have you on the show. You're a TV host and a promoter.
Yeah,
I wanted to ask you right away, which came first, a TV host or promoter, or is it the same time?
promoter, promoter.
Oh,
I started
oh, okay,
promoting first, and then I got offered to do some TV work, and then it took off from there. I never really wanted to be a TV host, but it just happened by accident.
okay. They something star. They saw some star quality in you, Peter.
Maybe no one else available with a budget. Who knows?
Okay. All right. Well, I've looked at your box set. You've been promoting for a while. Do you still are you keeping count of the number of promotions that you had?
It's down on Boxrec. I'm not sure how many, but I've been doing it for, I think, 22 years now. I first started in the late 90s.
1998.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
and it's been good. It's been good because every promotion has a life of its own, and as a promoter, it's a sort of separate business entity because
Hmm.
it's like you're subcontracting everyone, which means the fighters, and using different officials. Sometimes you go with the WBO for your fighter, sometimes WBC, WBA. So you're using different people, and you get to meet so many people doing the promotions. I think the advice I have is you've got to maintain coolness because sometimes when you promote, you've got to multitask. And if you get flustered or you're not used to it, then you can be rude to people because you haven't, you don't have your own headspace or you're short with people. And a lot of people think, oh, he's arrogant or he's this and that. But they're not. They've just got so much going on in their brain that they haven't really got time to be themselves.
Okay. Promoting is not an easy task. I can tell.
No, no.
I want to ask you right now at this stage during the pandemic, how do you think is the business of promoting? What are the current challenges that we're facing?
The current challenge is obviously a no gate because a promoter relies on the gate. And I know in the Philippines, the gate sometimes is paid by the local government, and then they make it into a carnival, and they kind of give some money to pay for the show, and that
Hmm.
goes hand in hand. But when you've got social distancing, you've got an epidemic, councils won't give money. And for us, we don't have councils that give money. We have a live gate with tickets. And if
Hmm.
we can't have that gate, we can't pay the fighters. So unless the promoters have got big TV rights and big TV deals, it's hard to be doing these shows because you're going to be losing a lot of money. I mean, a lot of money. And no one's going to go into a venture to lose a lot of money. It's not viable.
Okay. But I saw recently you posted or Jeff Horn and Team Tszyu. That's a big event in Australia. That's gonna happen. Is it closed door or do you know if it's
No,
open?
it's outdoor venue. The venue fits 32,000. It's in Townsville, which is right on the top of Australia.
Mm-hmm.
So it's really dry there. I don't think it's rained in 2 years. It's one of those
Uh-huh.
not tropical, so it's like a desert place. So it
Uh-huh.
hasn't rained. They don't have any cases, and I think it's August 26th. So it's going to be an interesting fight. It's going to be a very interesting fight.
Okay, but they're allowing people to watch.
16,000. They're going to allow 50% of the capacity of the venue, but the way,
Wow, that's so good. Mm-hmm.
yeah. See, the epidemic's mostly now in Melbourne, and it's a little bit in Sydney. So
Mm-hmm.
every border's suspended people from travelling. So I'm from Melbourne. I can't travel to Sydney or to Queensland. It's like if I go to travel, I can end up in jail, and they've got people on the border. So it's
Oh,
become really weird. So for me, I have to stay in Melbourne now till this epidemic's over.
oh my goodness! So you can't watch the boxing fight in August
No, I'll be watching it
live.
on live stream and that on
Yeah.
pay per view, but I cannot go, and it's pretty sad because we had a boxer on the undercard that was going to fight on the undercard. He was matched a few weeks ago because this has been going on. As you know, with boxing, the fights are really matched a long time out, and then they
Mm-hmm.
announce it, but everything's done. So we knew a while ago the date, but that was
Mm-hmm.
before the epidemic comes. So the last week, Victoria's in lockdown, and everyone's basically suspended us from going anywhere.
Okay.
We're the
You
people
don't.
with the germs here, apparently.
You can't get a pass. Just show him Peter Maniatis,
Yeah,
promoter. Let me in. You know, something like that.
yeah, no, because obviously of the virus and things, they just don't let anyone from Victoria go. So it's just, I guess it's going to be good watching it at home. And
Mm-hmm.
um, I promoted Tim Tszyu when he was younger, 2 years ago at Bendigo, and he was just in his maybe 11th pro fight back then, and I got to spend 3 or 4 days with him and his manager, Glenn Jennings, and his mother, Natalie. They're great people. And Jeff Horn's a good guy as well. I've known Jeff for a number of years. I've interviewed Jeff a lot, and he's got a good sense of humour, Jeff Horn. People don't realise his sense of humour, and I try and play jokes with him, but he doesn't like it. I told him he's got to go to the Philippines and do a meet and greet, meet all the fans. He thinks that if he goes there, they're going to want to kill him. I said, no way. The Filipino people are not like that. They're going to want to take photos. They're going to want to spoil you. They're going to treat you with respect. Correct?
Yeah, definitely, definitely. Well,
You're not.
there's a lot of memes going out to Jeff Horn, and there's some joke. Of course, there's some arguments, but most boxing enthusiasts they will post Jeff Horn's photo, and then they will put him as greatest of all time because he beat Manny.
Yeah,
The
yeah,
real goat is Jeff Horn.
yeah. Jeff, I mean, Jeff had a great night. It was an outdoor venue. I'm
Hmm.
pretty sure everyone would love to see the rematch if it ever happened. How would
Okay,
you
I
like
was
a
gonna ask you
rematch?
that later. I was gonna
We
ask you that
won't
later,
go
but
rematch
research.
then. Okay.
Go ahead.
No, we could talk about it later if you like. It's okay.
Okay, but I do want to ask you now since we're on the topic and Australia versus Australia. Would you be able to share what you think about Jeff Horn and Team Tszyu fight? Who has the edge?
Well, if we kind of went with form, you've got Jeff Horn, who he's defeated Manny Pacquiao in a close fight. He
Hmm.
went to America. He fought Terence Crawford. Terence Crawford right now is very hard to beat. He's
Hmm.
such a great fighter. He's so hard to beat. And then he lost to Michael Zarafa at Bendigo, and then he defeated Michael Zarafa. He went up to middleweight. Now he's dropped down to junior middle. I think that's the weight for him. He's too big for welterweight, takes too much to make weight, and he's too small for middleweight. Junior middle might be a perfect fit for Jeff Horn. But the other thing is, Tim Tszyu, he's a son of a gun. He's been boxing really since he's 2 or 3 years of age. He's such a talented kid, and he's an athlete, and he's so disciplined. He doesn't eat junk food. He doesn't do this. He doesn't do that. It's like he's in an army camp and all he wants to do is box. And he's Australian, but he's got that Russian heritage of toughness and discipline. And he's going to bring it. Make no mistake, he's going to bring it to Jeff Horn. And the bookmakers here in Australia think that Tim Tszyu going to win the fight. So they've got him as a favourite. Yeah, he's overwhelming favourite. And Jeff Horn's a little disrespected with the bookmakers. He said he's going to have a bet on himself. So he's going to put money on himself, Jeff Horn, because he thinks the bookmakers have got it wrong. But the bookmakers have got Tim Tszyu as the odds-on favourite.
I was surprised as well because of the experience of Jeff Horn. But both fighters are good, but I would expect that Jeff Horn would be on the books, would be on the advantage.
No, $1.45, so 45% of your money you only get. So if you put 100 peso, you get back 145 peso if you back Tim Tszyu. But if you back Jeff Horn, he's $2.60. So you put 100 peso, you get back 260 peso. So there's a bit of a difference there in the betting.
Oh, okay. All right, but that's still going to be fun to watch for sure. I'm curious, how much is the pay-per-view in Australia for this type of event? Is this considered a big event, this fight also?
Yeah, I'd say it'd be like 1,500 peso, the equivalent of Australian dollars, to go to a house. But for pubs and clubs, hopefully pubs and clubs are open by late August. Maybe they're not. But for pubs and clubs, it's very expensive. It's like 50,000 peso for a club and pub to broadcast it to 1,000 people or 500 people. So, but to a house, which is, not public, it's about 1,500 peso. But what you do, obviously, like everyone, you get friends with a big screen. They pay 1,500 peso, and you get 10 friends around. You have a night, you sit down and watch it, right?
Yeah, right. You get your money back plus more. To get more people. I don't think you can do it now because of the pandemic.
No, you can't. But in 6 weeks' time, I think we will be in lockdown, hopefully, if fingers crossed.
Okay. Nice to have some insight from Australia about this fight. Now I know what to say to the people here. But just to go back a little bit, as a promoter, why did you start promoting?
I kind of was always involved with boxing and other sports, and I was also a sports journalist for the Truth newspaper. And I got to interview boxers, got to know them. I managed 1 or 2 young guys, and we couldn't get them fights. So I'm thinking, well, for me to get them fights, I have to then do deals with promoters, and they wanted ticket deals. They wanted other things. So it was hard to get them fights. And then one time my friend said, why don't you just promote? And I said, I can't do it. I'm not a promoter. So no, you can do it. And they talked me into it. And then I went and saw the commission, got a promoter's license, and then put on an event. Didn't know what I was doing, lost a truckload of money, and then learnt from there. Tried to chase my losses, and then became a promoter.
Okay. But you still went on and on and on after losing the money. Why do you, in the Philippines, a lot of promoters saying, we're losing a lot more money. It's really just our passion to do it. Is in Australia, is it also hard to promote, to gain some revenue as well, because after all, it's business.
Yeah, you have to have sponsors, and you've got to maybe have a deal in place. Even if the TV don't show it live, they replay it. So you could go to your sponsors and say, look, we've got national television. It won't be live, so it doesn't affect the gate, but you'll have national exposure. I'll put your symbol on the canvas and corner pads and run ads through that, and then you get sponsorship, which helps cover the hidden costs. So you need that kind of deal where you've got TV involved. Otherwise, it's very hard relying on just ticket sales, because it's like going to the races or going to the casino. You're gambling.
Yeah. Okay. So from your years of of promoting. What was the most memorable experience so far?
I promoted at Festival Hall, which was the last time someone promoted it at that venue. It's where TV Ringside used to be when the big rock and roll bands used to come to Melbourne. They used to go there. We're talking like bands like the Beatles, Frank Sinatra, and all the big names used to go. And I've
Mm-hmm.
always wanted to do a show there, and it was very expensive, but it was like a tick off my bucket list. So I put on the show there, and I didn't lose any money, didn't make any money, but it was a great experience dealing with them. That was a big one, and also co-promoting Danny Green, the Green
Oh yeah.
Machine. He just defeated Roy Jones Jr. and he was coming on a high, and doing a show with Danny Green and those guys like Angelo Hyder and Tony Tolge, these guys. Um, Danny was obviously the main guy because Danny's a superstar in Australia. He's
Yeah.
like an Oscar de la Hoya, and he taught me so much as well about the media and also how to do things as well, with lighting and how to pre-promote an event. And it was so a great learning experience being involved with Danny Green.
All right. It looks like it was such a memorable experience for you. You kept. What year was that?
2015, it was at Hisense,
2015.
which fits about 10,000 people. It's like a tennis centre. It's next to the main. That's where they play the Australian Open. Some of the
Okay.
games. So it's a tennis court, or it could be a rock and roll stage, whichever way you do it. It's a stadium. It sits 10,000 people. We got 10,000 people, and it went all across Australia, New Zealand, and all the Solomon Islands and stuff like that. So we got a good broadcast. It was a successful event.
Yeah.
Danny fought Roberto Bolonti, and Danny won as well, which made it relief. You don't want
Hmm.
to put on an event and he loses. It's like you think of what the hell's going on here, but he won, and the event was a success.
Well, indeed, and you put your name as well on that iconic place, or all of the things that happened, all the great things. And
Yeah,
after 2 years, you won the Hall of Fame, Australia Hall of Fame, and then 2018 you won also this one. So
yeah,
you were learning. So tell us about the experience and how you felt about when you got inducted as a Hall of Fame. Is that a Hall of Fame as a promoter?
yeah. What happened was the inductions happen in March, but
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know they call you up around Christmas and let you know. They say, look, in March, you've run an induction,
Mm-hmm.
and because look, I'm a little old school. When I see Hall of Fame, I think fighters. You've got to be a
Yeah.
professional fighter. You've got to win. For guys that were not winning not boxers, professional boxers. For me, it seems a bit strange because I look at that as. But I realise, boxing, it's a full 360. You need all different types of people to make it go around. So when I got the call and the president called me from the Hall of Fame, I thought he was going to sell me tickets to the event for March because I know sometimes they call up and say, "Can you get some tickets?" Some people. And I'm like, "Oh yeah, I can move some tickets for you." No problem. He said, "No, no, no." He said, "You don't need to worry about that. You're gonna be in the Hall of Fame." And I said, "What?" I didn't really expect it, and it took a while, and then I didn't say anything because I thought maybe it's not going to happen, and I don't want to
Uh-huh.
look boastful. Oh, I'm in the Hall of Fame. Then they call up in February and say, "Oh, guess what? You're not in the ballot. Sorry, I didn't want to do it." So I kept it a secret right to the end. And then I remember the actual day I was going to be inducted. I went and told my mum and dad because I thought they can't cancel it now, right? So then I turned up and I got the award, and it was a great night. It was a great night.
All right, all right. All the hard work and those are those accolades that you've been getting. Those are things that money can't buy. That recognition. So good for you. Congratulations.
No,
Belated congratulations.
no, thank you, pal. Yeah,
I also want to talk about your affiliation here in the Philippines. Of course, I met you at, in the Philippines in a boxing event. I think I saw you as well in Malaysia during the Pacquiao fight.
yeah,
And you work with a Filipino boxer. Share us who is you currently working with, Randy.
yeah. Randy, and Sandman Jim Menangle and Dexter Tan
Mm-hmm.
and you know, the Menangle family are beautiful people, and so's Dexter, and it's so what's the word? It's so family like when you go there because they treat you like your family. They pick you up from the airport, they take you out. It's that Filipino kind of warmth and family, which because my father's Greek and my mum's Australian, so we're European and we're used to that family culture. Family means a lot, and
Mm-hmm.
with the Filipino people, it's the same. They invite you to your house, to their house. What's theirs is yours, and it's so great being involved because you feel part of a team. And Jim's such a good guy, you know. He and Dexter and you know, it's great that we experience that with Randy because um, Randy is 28 years of age now, and I think I
Mm-hmm.
started co-promoting him with Jim. It would have been 2009, I think, 2010. So it's been close to what 11 years now, and he's won a WBA world title. He's fought for an IBF world title. He's fought for a WBC world title. So it's been a like a massive journey being involved with him, and also with Sandman, and we've done many co-promotions. And I was in General Santos last October, and I remember I contacted Sean Gibbons, and at the time, Collingwood Football Club have got this great footballer, left footer, one of the greatest
Mm-hmm.
Australian rules football, and his idol's Manny Pacquiao. And we were going to do a secret tribute for his 300th game and get Manny to do a spiel. And I contacted Sean, and he did the spiel. And
Uh-huh.
then Scott signed his jumper to Manny and gave Sean a jumper, and he said, "If you're in the Philippines, present it to him." And then I got to the Philippines, and I met up with Sean, and it's a funny story. Manny was doing a promotion for Anta,
Mm-hmm.
um, and it was in Manila. It was somewhere in Makati, I think a shopping mall. It might have been, and it was one of the stores. And I caught Sean said, "You've got to come and do it here." But then when I turned up to Anta, because it's a Chinese company, they saw the Collingwood jumper and they said, "Oh, that's not Anta. No photos, no anything." And I said, "Sean, how are we going to do it now?" And he said, "Oh, we'll wait for Manny. When he finishes, we'll go down the stairs." So we went into a lift, and the lift stopped because there was too many people in the lift. So we had to go downstairs, stairways, and then I thought I'm going to miss out on a chance. But Sean Gibbons is such a great guy, one of the nicest guys in boxing. He made it happen, and we did a little spiel. I presented the jumper to Manny, and then they said, Sean said, "Oh, we're going to what's that place called in Greenbelt? Shangri-La. We're doing Japanese there. Come along."
Okay.
Manny's going to meet a few of the people from that. So we went there, had dinner. During dinner, there was a text saying there's been an earthquake in General Santos City
Mm.
in late October. And I was going the next day, and David Cease and all the boys said, "Do you still want to go, you know?" And I said, "Look, I've got a promotion. Randy's fighting. I'm going. That's how life is, you know. I'm not going to be scared and stay here. It could be an earthquake here tomorrow. I rolled the dice, so I went there. And when I went there, I mean, one of the malls was on fire, and it was 1 a.m. And I was looking at my Facebook, and I saw Bobby Pacquiao was there. So I thought,
Uh-huh.
"Wow, Bobby's there. It's 1 a.m. I'm going to go because I get outside to the hotel where I was staying, and I caught a trike, and then I got there, and there was fire brigade,
Mm-hmm.
and Bob and his wife were there, and that they were giving people drinks and food. And then Bobby was shocked to see me. He said, "What are you doing?" And I said, "Oh, I got a trike." And Bobby said, "Oh, you shouldn't have got a trike. What are you doing?" You know, blah, blah, blah. So, but cut a long story short, the promotion went ahead the next 2 days. It was in the mall at Robinson's, and
Mm-hmm.
Randy won on points. He fought a tough fight. And that was a good fight. He did fight because it was late October, and it kind of put him in good stead to fight for the world title in December last year, just before Christmas against Ken Shiro.
Yeah. Yeah. Before we go into that Cancer fight, you obviously have a lot of stories about Manny Pacquiao. I mean, I've seen a lot of your photos, old school photos with Manny Pacquiao. You interviewing him. What was the experience like, and what was your most memorable time with Manny so far?
See, Manny, in the early days, I think when he was only young, was trained by Rick Staley. He's a guy based in Pampanga, and I think he might have trained Manny for one or two fights. but he trained for the
Mm-hmm.
Sassakol fight in Thailand when Manny won his first world title. So I sort of was close to Rick, and he would always talk about Manny. And then I remember early 2003, maybe, I was in LA and I saw Manny at the wild card. And I kind of didn't say too much, just hello, and I remember they had the Filipino flag at wild card back then, and he was
Mm-hmm.
representing. So I did say too much, but then I think it was 2005 or 2004, one of the two. And I spoke to Wacky Salud, and Wacky always used to hang out with Manny. And
Mm-hmm.
they were in Manila and Malate. And I said to Wacky, can I do a meet with Manny, because talk about bringing him to Australia. This is obviously 15 years ago. Manny maybe had just fought and lost to Morales the first time. It was around that
Mm-hmm.
time. And he said, oh, that'll be great. That'll be great. So when I went there, I remember it was a billiard hall in Malate. But Wacky said to me, meet me at the hotel. And he might have been staying at the Manila Hotel. But I didn't get the call. Filipino people do things late. I'm not used to that. Like, I normally think if we're going to do something, we meet up at 5 p.m. and we do it. So back then, you used to have the internet cafe. So I'm on internet cafe getting on my emails, and it's like 9 at night. And I'm thinking, I'll turn my phone off soon, 9 at night. And I get a call from Wacky saying, what are you doing? We're all ready to go. We're going to a billiard hall. And, so I said, what do I do? And he said, get a pen. So I jotted down the address of his hotel. So I went to the hotel. I met Wacky, and Manny had already left.
Oh.
He was playing in the tournament. And then when I got there, Manny was in between his games because they were knockout tournaments. And I think
Uh-huh.
it was like 1,500 US to the winner. And Michael Cons was there. Jinky was kind of pregnant for, maybe it was with her second child. And there's photos on the internet if you ever want to see. It was a great night. And that's how I kind of first met Manny as a person, because back then Manny would have a drink. So we had a few San Miguel's, playing billiards. It was a relaxed atmosphere. We did the spiel. The spiel's on YouTube. And it was good because he wasn't as famous. He was different back then because he was a normal person, as far as he was just like a boxer would be now. Like Anhas, Joe and Anhas or something, they've got time to themselves. But now it's different because he's a senator. He's going to be trying to be the next president of the Philippines or vice president, or, he's just going to be high up. So he's not just a sports person as a politician. And he's just transformed to be a mega superstar. And the guy, to be quite honest, I've never seen a guy that never gets flustered. He never gets frustrated. He gives everyone a photo. He signs everything. He's so polite. I don't know how he does it, because I couldn't do that. I'd get flustered, but he seems to just be this person that goes ahead and lives his normal life. But his life's like Truman in the Truman Show. There's cameras around him all the time, and people
Yeah.
around him, and it's a strange way because none of us would get used to it. But he's adapted, and I think he can adapt to anything. And personally, I think he's going to be a fantastic president because he's really hard in his views, and playing sport and achieving what he achieved. He can do it because if Donald Trump can do it, Manny can do it. There's no doubt about that, in my opinion.
Okay. The comparison.
Yeah,
Donald Trump.
yeah. Donald Trump had a kind of. Manny's been a politician now for a number of years, so he's
Yes,
got
it's a long
experience.
time.
Yeah, Trump maybe didn't grow up with it. He was flirting with it like Manny, but to be president of America, for his background of not having that type of, he didn't get brought up in that way. It's a massive effort for him, and I think Manny can follow suit as well.
Oh, okay. With your stories about Manny, a lot of Filipinos will be jealous because you've had a lot more experience with him than most of us here, especially
Yeah,
boxing
actually,
fans. But mhm.
yeah, his brother Bobby too. Bobby's such a great guy, and Bobby was a good fighter too. I was a big fan of Bobby as a fighter,
Mhm.
and I met Manny's mum as well a lot, and she gets excited at fights, and she was actually at the promotion in the co-promotion I did with Sam Ann in
Hmm.
October in Robinson's in General Santos. She turned up. She's a terrific lady. She loves her boxing. Manny's mum, doesn't she?
Yes, yes. I went to General Santos, and there are local fights, and she's there.
Yeah, she was there from
So
the start. Yeah.
for most boxing. So yeah, she likes boxing. Probably got his fighting skill from the mom.
Yeah, for sure. And Bobby's such a great athlete as well. I mean, he
That's
was
well.
a terrific fighter. He's such a talented family. And Bobby is one of the nicest guys you ever want to meet. And he's a congressman. And I hope he goes deep into politics as well because he's got a terrific brain. His heart's in the right place. And I'm sure he's going to do a lot of great things as well for the Filipino people.
All right, Peter. Thank you very much for all of that insight. We've been talking already for 30 minutes. I haven't had already. We're not even half of the question I'm going to ask you. So, but
I'll do speed
do you
answers
have
now.
anything to promote first, so that we could insert that now? You want to promote anything before I ask you this next question?
No, we're in lockdown here, so we've got no dates. We don't know if it's going to be 6 weeks. We don't know if it's going to be 6 months. We're fingers crossed the vaccine happens soon and we
No, I
can get
meant
on with our lives.
any YouTube channel, any show, anything you wanted
Oh,
to
yeah,
advertise.
all my interviews are on KO Showbox on YouTube.
Hmm.
So, I mean,
Hmm.
I've got a couple of, um, I've got Ricky Hatton. I interviewed Ricky Hatton. I've interviewed
Hmm.
Jerry Lewis, the actor, the comedian, John Claude
Uh-huh.
Van John Claude Van Damme, um, Kathy Freeman. There's different type of interviews, but it's a bit of fun. So people last night I interviewed Peter McNeely. He fought
Uh-huh.
Mike Tyson when Mike Tyson got out of jail, and I got him. I had to set the alarm clock. It was 4 a.m. my time, but it was 2 p.m. New York time. So sometimes you got to set the alarm clock, pal. You know it, my friend. When there's interviews, you just got to do what you have to do.
Yeah, your interview with Bob Aaron was also early, really early morning.
Yeah, it was.
Uh,
It was. It was. It was a pre-recorded one, and it was a good time to get Bob because I needed 20, 25 minutes to go with pandemic. And Bob's always great with the media. That's the best thing about Bob. He's so media friendly. And I remember when Manny used to fight in the Macau days, and we used to go to the media room, and Bob would be there from the morning right to the end, just with the media
oh,
people, and it'd
wow.
be free food, free drinks, free coffees, free watching TV, everything you wanted. So I lived in the media room and you get to know people and stuff. And Bob was in there the same. I mean, we all ate there, we all hung out there, we all had, and I remember David Beckham came in one time as well. And Diane Castillo
Hmm.
would be there, and closer to the fights, Kinito Henson would turn up, and it was so exciting in those Macau days. They were probably my favourite days because it was so interesting to be involved with boxing as far as being so close to home and having the same time zone. Because when you go to America, it's strange, different time zone. It takes you a lot. It takes 14 hours to get there, but Macau from Australia is only like 8 hours, and it's similar time zone, and you feel more like you're at home. When America
Hmm.
feels like you're so far away.
Okay. All right. Well, a lot of stories from you, and uh, the when I'm starting listening to you right now, you're becoming really my idol. This is something that I wanted to do that you've done. Maybe cover in the U.S. the Top Rank show. So it's really an honor to have you here. But I want to go back a little bit, and I wanted to ask you. This is one of the thing that one of the followers have asked about you working with Randy Petalcorin. What's of course he lost his last fight. Can you share a bit more first on that fight
Yeah,
with
Randy had,
Kenshiro?
yeah, Randy had just fought in late October. We mentioned in General Santos, he fought
Mm-hmm.
Tanada, and it was a
Uh-huh.
tough fight. He went 8 rounds, and then Randy kind of injured his hand in that fight. But he boxed, he won easy, but he had a sore left hand. So it was late October, and Jim and I met up with Randy, and we said, look, take the rest of the year off. We'll start early next year because Christmas is coming. Your hand's sore. Just run. Keep fit, but
Mm-hmm.
you don't have to be in the gym. And then Felix Alvarado was meant to fight Ken Shiro, and
Yeah.
Honda Promotions were doing it with Top Rank, and I think Golden Boy were involved as well. But we knew nothing of this. And then I remember I'm going through my phone, I get a message from JC Menankill, and it's like, read this. So I read it, and it was, this is 1 month out. Johnny Alordo just contacted me, and because Johnny Alordo is very close with
Uh-huh.
Honda, and the Japanese people deal just with certain people. Once you start dealing with them, if you want a
Mm-hmm.
Filipino fighter and you're through Honda Promotions, you've got to go through the Alordos. That's the connection they do. It's a respect thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then I'm like, oh, what's going on? We've only got a month to go. What happened to Alvarado? I'm all confused, so I didn't know what was going on. So it took me about a whole day to get my head around it. And then I got back and I said to JC, well, what are we going to do? And then obviously, with fighters, it's a job, it's a living. And the payday was so great. Randy was not going to make that type of money. And then I said but the promoter knows that it's only like 4 weeks training, and Randy's fight was,
Mm-hmm.
basically 3 weeks, because we had to spend a week in Japan and do the lead up stuff. And in Japan, it was
Mm-hmm.
so cold, Randy wasn't going to train. So we had 3 weeks training to fight Ken Shiro, who was making his 7th title defense and one of the pound for pound stars of Japan. And
Yeah.
the first thing I said to Randy, do you want it? And Randy said, I want it. And then JC wanted it. We got back and we said, let's do it. Let's throw caution into the wind, roll the dice. At the end of the day, Randy needs the money as well. It's a massive payday, and you need security. And who knows, you could land a lucky punch, or you could get cut. And Randy's still kind of fit, and he was still in shape. Lucky he fought that late October,
Mm-hmm.
because he had those 8 rounds in him, and the fight's only like 2 months after that. So he didn't lose
Mm-hmm.
too much, but he wasn't conditioned enough with someone like Kenshiro, because when we got to Japan, it was so cold from summer to the Philippines is always hot, but Japan was like cold. It was 8 degrees. It was like a fridge. And Randy kind of got sick. He got the sniffles. He doesn't leave his room. It was hard to really then zero in to say, well, he's going to win the fight. We just thought, well, we're here now. Let's do our best performance. And Randy actually came
Mm-hmm.
out early and won some rounds. And then he just got hit with some body shots, and he wasn't feeling well before the fight. And then obviously he got
Mm.
KO'd in the 4th round. But Jonathan Takani and guys like that only went 4 rounds with Kenshiro as well,
Kenshiro.
with big preparations. Randy had no preparation. So I would love Randy to get fit, have a few tune-up fights. Maybe he needs to work on strength and condition around his midsection, because he's
Mm-hmm.
very good to the head. You can't hurt him to there, but he's got to get conditioned for the body shots, because now all the opponents know, I saw Alvarado fight, I saw the Kenshiro fight.
Yes.
Boxers are smart. They're going to attack his body, so he's got to get his body right before
Yeah.
the next fight, because they'll be gaming their game plan on his body.
Yeah. They watched the videos and studied the fight. So yeah. So what's the plan now for Randy? Any plan to fight anytime soon, or what's your plan?
He's 28 years of age. Obviously, he trains with Sam Mann, and JC's also his co-manager. So I'll talk to JC, see what he thinks. But obviously, once COVID restrictions lift, we've got to get him a tune-up fight where he comes in and, he gets some rust out and he gets a win, and he gets himself back feeling good, and then maybe see how he performs in that fight. If he performs well,
Mm-hmm.
maybe fight a rated fighter. If he doesn't perform well, maybe give him another fight till he finds his form. Because a loss to a fighter, it doesn't matter. Some take it well. Manny Pacquiao takes it awesome. He's good when he has a loss. He bounces straight back. Some fighters, it takes a fight or two to bounce back. They
Mm-hmm.
lose their confidence. But I think Randy, after he lost to Alvarado, he bounced back pretty good with his 2 fights. So I think he'll be okay. And I think he's got 2, 3 more years left of boxing. By the time he's only 28, as we mentioned. 28's pretty young now to be a boxer.
Yeah.
So I think he's
I'm
got.
one. Mm-hmm.
I think he's got a bit left. I think he's got
Okay.
a bit left. I think he's got a few years left. He's not done yet.
Okay. Definitely, it's still. I mean, Manny's 40 years old, and a lot of boxers 35 years old still doing very well. So, but I'm curious, how were you able to start managing a Filipino boxer like
Um, I'd,
Randy?
I'd
How
go
did you
to
get
the
there?
fights, and then I'd meet people. I remember I was involved with Belweg Bengoyan early on.
Mm-hmm.
He was a super bantam based out of Davao. And then one time I went to Carlos Tamara and Brian Valoria. I was covering the fight. and Randy
Yeah.
fought Marlon Tapales on the undercard, and I got to meet him there, and it sort of snowballed. Found out who his manager was, stuff like that, and then I got involved. I think he was only about 18 or 19. He lost to Marlon Tapales. He got TKO, but in the first round he went really well. But I think he was just too small. Marlon Tapales is so big and strong,
Yeah.
and he
Yeah.
overwhelmed Randy. But at the time, Randy was undefeated, and I like the fact that he fought someone like Marlon Tapales, and he was so young, and you could see the speed and the skills, and there was so much to work with. And I wanted to work with him. I thought he had potential.
Okay. You come back and forth here in the Philippines, work with Sandman, and I saw in your box rec you have some co-promotion here. What was it like working with a local promoter like Sandman holding events here in the Philippines?
Awesome. And I also did an event with Jerry Penalosa when Randy fought Rodriguez for the vacant PABA title. That was in Cebu, and
Hmm.
we had Mayol on the undercard, and there was so many good fighters. I think Dotty Boy Penalosa. It was a really good promotion. It was a GMA. It was on GMA. It was on TV, and
Hmm.
um, yeah, working with Jerry Penalosa was awesome as well. And that I think it was 2011 August or July, and yeah, that was such an experience because, as we mentioned before, the Filipino people are so giving with their time and the generosity. And it was Jerry's birthday after the event, and we all went out. And you go out to a party or a birthday party, you don't get home till 3, 4 in the morning. That's one thing I know. You have
Hmm.
the pig and the spit and
uh,
all these
the
delicacies and
lechon. Yeah.
yeah, the lechon and stuff like that. I loved it. It was awesome.
Okay. So I'm sure you're gonna still go back and forth. What is the process like? Because a lot of boxers as well ask me. Um, they wanted to get a good manager, a promoter. Do people approach you, or do you have to pick and choose a fighter? What's the process like for you to manage a boxer, or are you actively looking for a boxer as well?
Um, I think you've got to seek someone that you think you get on with, and
Hmm.
the boxer has to respect the manager, and the manager has to respect the boxer. So you've got to treat that boxer like it's your brother, it's your family
Hmm.
member, and not like, oh, I'm going to send him to Thailand, I'll send him to Japan, I'll send him in. The boxers start coming back with KO losses. To me, that I don't do it that way. You know what I mean? I don't like it unless for a world title or something where you get massive payday. But just for a normal fight to do that, it kind of wrecks the fighter's confidence. But
Hmm.
you've got to be able to judge where a fighter can go. Not every fighter is going to win a world title. It's just not the way life is. You can't have 1,000 world champions. That's why it's so rare to win a world title. And you've got to know, can that fighter really win a world title? And, you know, I've kind of looked at a few fighters, but it's hard because now with the Philippines, it's such a hotbed and there's so many managers and promoters from America and South America and wherever, looking for talent. And the Filipino boxers are so talented, humble, and easy to manage that they get snapped up. And you got Sean Gibbons there with MP Promotions. They're
Yeah.
doing magnificent things for boxing. I mean, Sean Gibbons is one of the nicest, hardest working guys and fair guys in boxing. And the stuff that he's done for Filipino boxing in that short time has been amazing. And, he's kind of like the talent guy now, and he's got a great eye for fighters. So he's getting all the really good fighters. And it's good to see as well. But for me, I would like to manage a fighter, but at the moment I'm just happy with Randy because you can put 100% into Randy, and it's hard when
Yeah.
you're in another country managing a fighter that lives in another country because you,
Hmm.
you don't get to interact, and it's kind of like a long distance international type of thing where you don't ever get to see them. You get to see them fight night, then you go away. You see them twice a year. Where
Uh-huh.
if you manage a local guy, you get to see him in a gym every day or every second day, or you might, you know, go and watch a fight together and interact. But it's harder when you've got fighters where it's a different country.
Yeah, you won't see if he's really working in the gym. All you see is
Yeah, that's right.
photos,
Yeah,
photos.
yeah.
But But how is Filipino boxers perceived by Australian?
Dangerous, bangers. You
Hmm.
always pick a Filipino. Like for me as a matchmaker, if I'm picking a Thai fighter against an Aussie, I'm comfortable because the Thais haven't got that knockout power and they're not explosive. Where if you pick a Filipino fighter, you know at any moment he can land a shot. The Filipino boxers have got power. They land big shots. They fight. They're like Mexican fighters. They're hungry, and it's always great to have a Filipino fighter on the undercard. They're so entertaining. They're colourful fighters.
I can agree with you with that. That's why I love boxing here. It's like when they fight, there's no tomorrow. It's like all fight, all actions, and I guess big credit as well to Manny Pacquiao for showing the world how Filipino fights. But I also understand that you had some boxing experience yourself.
Yeah, I had some amateur experience, which was good because you need
I'm
to.
gonna show a photo. You tell us about this one first. Who's this big
Yeah,
guy here?
yeah, that was me back in the day. It was a good experience. That was an amateur fight in Melbourne. I think that was in '96 or '97, and I won the fight. But obviously, I was pretty scared going into the ring for a number of reasons, and that's what you get to experience with fighters. The night before, you got to relax your mind and sleep, and make sure when you wake up in the morning, you haven't like
Uh-huh.
slept only 1 or 2 hours because you're nervous. And I'm a nervous type of guy, to be honest. I slept well because I was so tired, but during the lead up to the fight, I kept going to the toilet. I kept doing this. It was so nerve wracking. And I remember just before I was walking out and all your friends are there, I thought for a split second, what happens if I get knocked out? How am I going to explain this? How stupid am I to get myself in this position? That was my first fight. But then I got in there and I won the fight. And then you kind of have a little more confidence in yourself. Like, hang on, you can hang there. You've got 2 arms, 2 legs. You train. So maybe you're not going to embarrass yourself. So, yeah, I had like the promoting career. It was a reluctant start. And I had a few fights after that. And it was a great experience to fight because now I can talk to fighters. I know what they go through because I went through that myself. So, and it's
How
not
many
easy.
fights did you had?
Probably 8 fights, and
Eh,
and I won them. I won them. So, but
wow, undefeated.
yeah, I wanted to turn professional.
That
But it
was my
just
next question. Yeah, what happened?
yeah.
Why did you not?
Uh, at the time, I was also playing football and just social football, like suburban, and I injured my shoulder, and I got a shoulder reconstruction. Um, and I was engaged to be married. I was about to be married.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then my wife, basically, who's always the boss, and you know that, pal. Women always win all the arguments. You can't argue. She said,
Yeah.
no more sport for you. No more throwing in the sling. You're just going to go into the media. You're going to become a corporate. And I said, okay, fair enough. It was a good excuse for me as well. No more gym and sweaty time. I could put on a suit. So it was a good
You're
exit.
right.
I was looking for the exit sign and she gave it. So that was the end
Okay.
for me.
It's hard to argue with the wife.
Yeah,
You can't
very
win.
hard.
You will
Yeah,
never.
yeah,
You think you're winning, but you're really not.
yes, yeah.
Okay. So you didn't go to as a professional boxer. You became a promoter instead, and a host, and you were rather successful. Um, what how do you see your promotion moving forward? And as you said a while ago, you don't have any scheduled bet, but what can we expect with your promotion moving forward?
Sean Buckley, who's a guy that does he's got a company called Ultratune here. It's a
Mm-hmm.
national company, and he's had that's how I got to interview John Claude Van Damme. He's had um, you know Mike Tyson do ads for him. He's had
Mm-hmm.
Charlie Sheen do ads for him. He's a big
Nice.
kind of entrepreneurial guy, and he sponsors. So when we do Ultratune fight nights, I'll help out and I'll promote them and stuff like that. So I play it by ear because I don't like um, putting pressure on because everything in life will happen. Time
Mm-hmm.
always tells you if time if It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. So live with it. Accept it. If it's going to happen, it's going to happen. Enjoy it. I'm like that type of guy. I don't like putting plans in place, and I don't like, because
Uh,
sometimes I don't go to plan, and then I don't want to let people down. But right at the moment, once COVID's over, then obviously I'll meet up with my people. We'll have a coffee, see who's fit. Hopefully the fighters haven't gained 40 pounds and they've been in lockdown, drinking and eating, and they're all, 6 divisions higher than what they should be. Hopefully everyone's okay, and then we can plan the show and see how it's going to go.
all right. Then maybe I'll just touch base with you then after the pandemic, and then we can talk more about your promotions.
Yeah,
Uh,
for sure.
yeah. Yeah, so I've seen some boxers, especially top rank back boxers, they're all moving up in weight. So, well, this is mainly because of the pandemic. They can practice, or do you think it's all planned? Like a lot of top rank boxers, the stars are moving up.
Yeah, look, you've got to realize with professionals, it's a 24-hour weigh-in. So what you do, a lot of the fighters deplete their bodies for 2 days. So really,
Hmm.
a lightweight, which is 135 pounds,
Hmm.
he'll make 135 pounds just at the weigh-in. He's never really been 135 pounds. It's just for 5 minutes he makes it. He drinks,
Yes.
he eats. From 135 pounds fight night, he can be 150 pounds. They put on
Hmm.
15 pounds. So for them to move to 140 pounds, it's not really a big difference, because they probably walk around 150 pounds to make 135 pounds, if you know what I mean.
Oh, wow, wow, wow.
So that's how much you deplete your body of fluids, because you got to remember 80% of your body is
It's
85% of your body is made out of fluid. So when you deplete it, the weight just comes straight down, and that's how fighters do it, and that's why they can go up in weight, if you know what I mean, because they're
mm,
really walk around weights different. Like Canelo Alvarez's walk
yes.
around weights 82, 83 kilo, which is
Uh-huh.
185 pounds, and then he makes 160 pounds sometimes.
60, 160.
So he loses 25 pounds.
Right, and he
So
he fought in the cruiserweight too, so that's why it's no problem.
not like it, no problem, because he walked in probably the way he normally would walk in. So
Okay.
that's the difference where fighters are going up. It just means that they're probably not as cutting back as much before the
Uh-huh.
weigh-in, so they can actually do it. And I think that's great, because you're going more refueled, you're going stronger, because sometimes losing all that weight, it takes you so long to recover, and a lot of
Yeah.
fighters can't recover. They're flat, they can't perform, and there's pluses and cons in doing that.
Yeah, yeah. I was thinking because a lot of girls has there's diet issue how to cut weight. Now I'm thinking because the cut weight of a boxer is only lasts for a day or two, so it's not gonna work for girls.
Yeah, that might no, it's not, and it's so hard to do. And
Uh-huh.
they were saying that Jeff Horn, when he fought Manny, the
Mm.
actual day of the fight, Jeff Horn, I think, was 162 pounds. So
Wow.
he put on 15 pounds, where Manny could probably make lightweight still. He can make 135 pounds if he really had to. And for him to be fighting guys that big, it's such a massive effort, really, because he's one of the few guys that can eat as much as he likes leading up to a fight and doesn't have to do the cut, because he's fighting maybe 2 divisions above what he possibly could make. So, but he's such a freak, such a
Yeah.
talent, that he can get
Yeah.
away with it. No one else can get away. He's like, forget the rules. This guy's Superman, you know, and he can do whatever he likes. But for us mortals, we have to follow the rules, because you're going to get hurt when you jump up in weight. You're fighting bigger guys. He can just handle it.
Yeah, that's what most people realize. Manny is a small guy, and he's actually. I look at the boxer. He never weighed above 147 in all of his fight, even the fight 150, at least on the weigh-in. And his walking weight is I don't know, maybe 100, or I'm sorry,
He
150
makes,
pounds, 160.
yeah, and he comes in at 144 pounds, 145
Yeah,
pounds. So
so it's
he's
already a
always in shape.
disadvantage at welterweight, right? Like
Yeah, it's
he's already
massive.
small.
Yeah, it's a massive disadvantage. But this is where boxing's coming to, though. You've got to move up to make the bigger fights, because that's what it's all about, And Manny's done that so well. And look, the old fighters couldn't do it. Roberto Duran and all these guys, they were great at lightweight and they were, legends. But then when they moved up to middleweight and stuff like that and heavyweights, they couldn't do it. And that when they got older, they couldn't do it. Manny is 41 years of age. I mean, in December, he's going to be 42 years of age.
Too.
To be doing what he's doing up against, even the fight with Keith Thurman, it's ridiculous, really. The form doesn't say he should be doing that. In the old days, because I've been promoting the sport for a long time, but also been involved in the sport since I was a kid. So I remember Muhammad Ali fighting. I remember these guys. Normally when a fighter got in their 30s, that was their superannuation. They'd do like a little tour, but then they'd lose. They wouldn't win. You wouldn't see the sparkle back in any of them. But someone like Manny Pacquiao, his last 3 wins, I mean, you've got, Lucas Matisse, Broner, and now Thurman. That's enough just for a career for a normal fighter. That's induction in the Hall of Fame just on his last 2 years when he's over 40. So the other side, I mean, it's going to take a while to digest what he's actually done because it's so unbelievable, and it's just going to take so long for us to actually digest that this guy's going to go down in history. He's the only man to win 8 world titles in 8 different weight classes, and he done it in such spectacular fashion. So and you guys get, you guys get to have him as maybe your president. So more exciting times.
All right, this the multitasking and multi-talented. I want to transition to this. We're talking about weight. Is it asking too much for Manny to fight Gennady Golovkin in the middleweight division?
Not really, because Manny can do anything. I mean, he breaks the rules, so he keeps breaking the rules. I'm the guy that says if this guy can do anything, I'm going to say he's going to beat Golovkin. He'll be too busy.
Wow.
To Gennady Golovkin because Manny's so in and out and so fast, and speed to me conquers all. And Manny has still got enough kick in the power to keep Gennady Golovkin honest, and it'll be a great fight. And you've got to remember, Gennady Golovkin's getting in his late 30s as well. He's 37, 38. So it's good Manny gets to fight an older, slower guy, and Manny's smart and tough. That could be the perfect fight. And it's the 9th world title there. That would be a fantastic fight for Manny. We've got to remember, history repeats sometimes. Remember when the big question came, Manny's fighting Oscar De La Hoya, and I remember all the Filipino people. I was in Cebu for a promotion. It was the AJ Bernal fight. He fought Conception, and I covered that fight. It was another promotion, and they're going, Manny's going to get hurt. De La Hoya's too big. Why is he fighting De La Hoya? This is not. And then Manny went on and destroyed De La Hoya. So,
yeah.
Which kind of reminds you of the same thing. Oh, Gennady Golovkin's too big. Don't be surprised if Manny destroys him. Manny loves those kind of challenges.
So you think he should fight him next? You think he should fight him next, or is that the fight that you want to see at this age?
Yeah, why not? Why not?
Wow.
Why not?
Okay.
Yeah, why not? Let's do it, man. I think Manny would get excited to fight Triple G. I mean, everyone would. Manny wins that fight. It's 9 world titles in 9 different weight classes. It's going to be talked about in 100 years' time. Why not? Every fight now for Manny must mean something because it could be his last fight. We're heading to the time now that he's getting his early 40s that, if he does fight Triple G, everyone's going to love it, and it's going to be a real meaningful fight. If he fights, the other fight could be a possibility is Mikey Garcia because he's a 4-division world champion. That'd be a great fight as well. I'd love to see Manny fight either Mikey Garcia. Triple G obviously is a massive ask. I mean, you'd have to put a lot of training and effort into that one because Triple G's got that raw power. Manny could not get hit because fight night, Triple G will be it'll be ridiculous in size and height. He's so big and powerful, Triple G. But I think it's something Manny would enjoy, and the fans would enjoy it as well.
The Golovkin fight is bigger than any of the other fights, if you think.
Of course, because it's the 9th world title in 9 different weight classes.
Bigger than the Floyd Mayweather fight, maybe if you have to choose.
No, I'd go the Floyd fight because I want to see Manny beat Floyd because the Floyd's so hard to fight. He's so hard to beat, and he we've got to give that to Floyd. He's such a great athlete. He's defensively a genius, and he's so hard to beat. But Manny would beat him now. Floyd hasn't really fought in so many years, and
Yeah.
doing those exhibitions and that Manny's been in real fights. Manny could possibly stop Floyd now if they fight, and I think Floyd knows that, and he doesn't want to fight. That's what I
Not
think.
gonna happen. That's not gonna happen right now. Floyd's too
Yeah,
wise, too smart.
yeah. There's no way he'll fight Manny the way Manny's fighting now, and it's so Manny has to look for other bigger fights, and I'm sure it'll happen. And I think when it goes down in history, Manny will always be remembered as a people's champion who stepped up, fought the tough fights at the tough time. Where Floyd's a defensive wizard. He's so brilliant fighter. He's so entertaining before the fight, but during the fight, he's so defensive. He sort of does his thing, but he's not your blood and guts fighter, and he manages
Yeah.
himself so well the way he fights now. He might do another exhibition in Japan and earn side money. I
Yeah.
mean,
He's
that's
making money. Money is money.
exhibitions. Yeah, money. Yeah, for sure. But you know, I'd like to see Floyd maybe for me man up, fight Manny one more time, and then
Yeah.
winner gets the bragging rights, loser retires. Great way to finish careers.
Yeah, great way, great money. But either way, whoever Pacquiao fight next, I'm getting a lot of here in the Philippines because I didn't want the Gennady Golovkin fight. But coming from you, coming from other boxers as well, that's saying it's possible. I think it's possible to win. I'm just a little bit worried about the health because it's different back then. He was at his prime, 29, I believe, when he fought De La Hoya. But now it's 41 years old. That was my worry. But coming from you, who knows more than me, then now I believe that he could definitely get the ninth division title if he wants to.
For sure, because as we mentioned, Gennady Golovkin's in his late 30s as well, and he's not a
Yeah.
speed guy. So Manny's going to be faster. Manny's going to use his feet, and
Hmm.
I think it's a perfect fight for Manny. I don't think Golovkin would beat Manny. I think Manny would go in as a favourite, and I think he'd win the fight, and he'd look really
Yeah.
good. And that would
Yeah.
really just 9 world titles in 9 different weight classes. That would just
Unheard of.
yeah.
That's like unimaginable. We never thought it would happen. But you've seen the interview of Manny after the Margarito fight. He was complaining about the body shot. He won that fight and convincingly really battered Margarito. But after that fight, he immediately relinquished the belt because it was too big. Don't you think that it could be an issue after the fight with Golovkin? Let's just say it happens.
Yeah, I'd have to vacate for sure. You couldn't start in
Ah,
middleweight, but it'd just be a one-off, win the title, vacate it, drop back down
yeah,
to welterweight, maybe have it final
or
for Mel,
retire.
or retire. But I'd like to see Manny fight one time in the Philippines, and
Oh yeah,
whether it's a
maybe
rematch with
Marquez.
Jeff Horn.
Jeff
Let's
Horn,
get the
you
Aussie
won.
over there, yeah. And I remember when Australia and the Philippines played in basketball, and it was an all-in brawl. Do you remember that? It was about 2 years ago. It was about 40 of the players all brawling against each other. Can you remember that?
Yeah. I
Yeah,
remember that. What basketball is a big sport here, so everyone
yeah,
was buzzing about it.
yeah. So the Aussies got their butt kicked in it. We were winning the basketball, but then we lost the fight, right? It
Yeah,
was an all-in brawl. And then I remember it was around the time when Manny fought Lucas Matisse in Kuala Lumpur. And
yeah.
obviously, I always get good banter with the Filipino people. They know I'm an Aussie, but I'm also like a Filipino, right? I'm you guys' friends. I said, why don't we do the basketball on Friday night at the arena in the Philippines, the one that Iglesia Ni Cristo own? Is it
Yeah. The big
the
one,
one in
Philippine Arena.
Bulacan? Yeah, we can do that. Friday night basketball, Australia versus Philippines, and Saturday night Manny Pacquiao versus Jeff Horn. We can have
Oh
Australia cover both fights and have both nations involved. Imagine the buzz we'd get doing that. That
yeah, definitely.
it'll be
It will be
sold
big.
out. Yeah.
Maybe we can get one of the one of from Team Australia and Team Philippines basketball player to also get into an exhibition bout.
You're thinking like a promoter now. I didn't even think that. Yeah, that could happen. That could
That will
happen.
be that will be really interesting.
Yeah, I'm sure the Australian public would love it and the Filipino public would love it because we've got a lot of Filipino people that live in Australia as well, expats. So the viewing
Yeah,
audience would be massive. But obviously with boxing, you get these nostalgia matchups, but it's so hard to do because sometimes they're not on the radar. So it's just fantasy talk, if you know what I mean. But it's good
yeah,
to
yeah,
talk this way anyway. It's fun.
yeah. More than an hour, and I think I told you this is just an hour, but I just have a few questions. We're talking about big fights. What do you think is the biggest fight during the pandemic, at least, or at least the end of the year? What is the biggest fight that could happen in international boxing? You think?
Now, obviously, Bob Arum's doing fights that with no crowd, so I can't do the Tyson Fury and all those big heavyweight fights because there's no gate. But Lopez and Lomachenko, I like. I think that's going to be an awesome fight, and Lopez is definitely a future star of the sport. He's up there, and Lomachenko, obviously, he's only had the one defeat. It was his second or third pro fight up against Salido. He's so hard to beat. Lomachenko, he's such a wizard, and what his amateur career was unbelievable, and as a professional, he's great. So this is going to tell us where Lomachenko is, and this will tell us where Lopez is because a lot of people say, oh, Lomachenko, he still fights like an amateur. He's
Mm-hmm.
boring. That's not how the pros are.
Mm-hmm.
He's done all this, but still not a lot of people watch him. He's not a pay-per-view star because of his style, like Rigondeaux, what have you. I said, look, he is a technician and obviously doesn't because he's from that Ukraine, Russian background. They're not like Americans. They don't know how to sell themselves. They're not like Mayweather to come out and be brash. So he doesn't get the attention he deserves. But technically, he's a magician and he's such a talented fighter. And Lopez is this hungry lion. That's the fight I want to see. Apparently, it's happening in September. I really does hope it happens because you've got two guys at their peak. Really, they're not leaving it too long. They're fighting at the right time, and
Mm-hmm.
it's going to be interesting who wins that fight. I think Lomachenko might have a bit too much experience, but I think Lopez is going to give him so many nightmares, and I cannot wait for that fight.
Right. What percentage do you give? 100%. Which fighter are you leaning towards?
60-40 Lomachenko.
Lomachenko.
Yeah, I think
Okay,
because of the
that's fair.
experience and his being there, but I'm not discounting Lopez. He just seems to find the right punch at the right time, and he's always there to win, and he hasn't lost, so he's going to be so hungry. And they must be confident to be taking the fight. So even though he's so young, so I think 60-40.
All right. Yep. We have the same idea. How about Canelo Alvarez? Will he be fighting anything big? Because I've heard he's fighting, but they're not naming the opponent.
Yeah, I think there's a few opponents that are trying to get him, and he just won a light heavy, not just, but last year moved up, won 4 world titles, 4 different weight classes, and
Yeah.
I mean he gets so many pay-per-views through the Mexican people that he can do whatever he likes. He's a bit like Manny in the Philippines. He fights who he wants, when he wants, how he wants, because he's such a megastar now, and he's
Yeah.
transformed. I mean, there was talk that he might fight Triple G again for the third time, and then there was other talk that he's got to do his mandatory. So much happening, and you don't know. But when he's ready, I'm sure he can't fight during the epidemic because he needs the live gate because he
The
gets
like
big
it.
money. I mean, he gets guaranteed 30 million, I think, from his
From
TV
the zone.
broadcast network.
Yeah.
So I mean, they need to make money off, but it's not like it's going to be a cheap fight night putting him on. So they need live gates. They need the vaccination basically or to be coronavirus free, which is impossible in certain parts of the world. So we're all in a holding pad, I think. So it's going to be an interesting time for him as well because he needs to fight. And sometimes fighters might say, I'll just drop my price to get a fight. I don't care about the money. I need to get in the ring. I'm sick of sparring, sick of being in the ring. I'm going to get in the ring. That will start happening if the
Yeah.
epidemic goes too long.
Yeah. Yeah. Uh, what do you think about Ryan Garcia? Is he for real?
I saw his fight with Duno, who's Sandman, and
Yeah.
I went to JC before the fight. They were confident. He's for real, for sure. He reminds me of a younger Oscar De La Hoya. He's got those flashy left hooks, and he's got so much power, and he's a salesman. He gets on Instagram, he
Yeah.
gets on places, and he pumps himself up. He's young at the moment, so he's just a young kid. They've got to pull it back a bit, I feel, because he is 21. I mean, he's going to be in the sport for the next 10, 15 years. So
Yeah.
he's winning fights early, and he hasn't really been tested. When he gets someone up against battle-hardened guy that's going to headbutt him or elbow him and he cuts his face and he sees his blood and the guy's coming on, I think he's going to handle it. I think he's a tough kid, but they're the type of challenges he needs before he steps up to fight the real big fights. And he's only young, so let's not rush, because it's easier to be patient and do it slowly and gradually get there rather than rush and then fall back 10 meters and have a loss.
Okay.
It's going to take to build him up. So I'd say they should be very cautious with him, but he's such an exciting prospect, and he reminds me of Oscar De La Hoya. He could be the next Oscar De La Hoya.
As a promoter, I'd like to ask you this. Just pretend you're the promoter, because Ryan Garcia is also he is like Oscar, but he's fighting Oscar publicly
Yeah.
because of the money issue. How do you deal with this type of stars that at a young age they know that they're a star and they're already asking for this type of money?
Look, as a promoter, you know what fighters bring in. They know. They do the maths. They know what demographics, pay-per-views, but he's got a massive following in Instagram.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean that they're going to buy your fights. A lot of people follow people on Instagram just because they might be girls thinking, oh, he's a guapo, I'm going to follow him. You know what I mean?
Yes.
They're not going to pay for his fights. So realistically, he might be only a few people buy his fights. So Oscar's offered him, I think, $200,000 US to fight on one of these coronavirus epidemic cards, and he said that's not the right type of money. Well, he's not a world champion. He's still only 21. He hasn't brought anything to the table yet. Oscar is going through an epidemic himself, trying to put promotions on, and he hasn't been successful. Only Bob Arum has. So right at the moment, it's hard for someone like Oscar to do the balancing act, because he's trying to be real, and he can't give ridiculous money to Garcia. And Garcia feels that he's not my promoter. He's really against me. He, doesn't see the big picture. But if I was Oscar, I'd probably give him the extra money, because you need to keep fighters like that happy, and you need to keep him on your side, because, I mean, he's got big fights against Lomachenko, Lopez, whoever. I mean, he might move up in weight, fight Adrian Broner. Who knows? There's so many fights for him coming up. You got to keep the kid happy. If he wants 400,000, double his money, who cares? Oscar's worth 200 million. Obviously, he can find the money and make him happy while this epidemic's here, because you got to keep the fighters happy. If he thinks he can go somewhere else, he's going to go somewhere else, and that's what's happening at the moment. And you can't afford to lose fighters. I mean, Oscar had Tyson Fury early on, so I mean, a few of the promoters haven't really invested to keep a fighter. Sometimes you've got to see the long-term future of a fighter and wear a loss early to keep him later in the career, if you know what I mean. And that's the way I see it. I think you should give him the money and keep Ryan Garcia happy.
Okay, great. Also, we've witnessed a lot of events from Top Rank, but I've seen the viewership. According to some reports and some news, it is not that good. Why do you think so? Top Rank events.
Yeah, the big names aren't fighting because Bob's running the events in a hub, and the fighters that are fighting for a budgeted show, because there's no gate, and basically there's no the sponsorship, the gate, the hype's not there, because we're going through an epidemic. So the fighters that Bob is picking is on a budget. There's a certain budget type of fight. He can't put Terence Crawford on. He can't put his big stars on. I mean, Lomachenko is going to come on in September up against Lopez. Watch the viewing audience boom then.
Oh, okay.
So
right, because I'm a little bit worried. I'm a little bit worried because the Top Rank and the UFC is on the same network, and they kept comparing, because the UFC is getting million of viewership, and then the Top Rank is just getting about 300,000. So I was wondering why. Because of the fighters.
Yeah, they're not big
Mm-hmm.
names. They're not household names. And you've got to remember, UFC, they do their homework. And UFC's one organisation controls everything. With
Mm-hmm.
boxing, it's different if Top Rank, Golden Boy Promotions, Al Heyman, Premier Boxing all
Mm-hmm.
got together and made one unified sport called boxing. Then all the fighters would
Uh-huh.
have to fight each other because they'd be all under the same banner. And we'd get all
Uh-huh.
the numbers. You get all the numbers that normally follow Golden Boy, all the numbers that normally follow Premier Boxing, all the numbers that follow Top Rank, all in one event.
Mm-hmm.
And that's
Nice.
where
Okay.
Dana White has got the advantage. Where now, Top Rank's its own little island, and they're obviously catering for the budget that they've got with the fighters they're putting on. And you can't compete with UFC at the moment. But once they're able to put on the fighters they want to put on, then it's going to be a different story again. The audience will spike up, and it'll spike up quickly as well.
Okay. Just a couple more questions.
Yep.
Who is the next boxing superstar coming from Australia?
Tim Tszyu. I say
Tim
Tim
Tszyu.
Tszyu. He'd be the next guy that he looks the part. And I mean, there's a few also amateurs. Is that we've got a heavyweight amateur. He's he looks Rocky Huni, Justin Huni. His father's Rocky. He's a good guy.
Mm-hmm.
Huni, Huni. He's favourite for the gold
Okay.
medal. Um, and he's only 21 and he's going to be massive. And he'll be the next, Joseph Parker. He's at that level. So he's going to be the next star of Australian boxing. But after the Tokyo Games, he's going to turn professional. So he's probably
Uh-huh.
look out for him for sure, and obviously Tim Tszyu as well.
Okay. I know I said two, but just one ask because you interviewed this guy, Ymir.
Yeah, great
C-
guy. I, I
can you
actually,
sign Ymir? You're gonna.
he,
I know
he's
MP is also about to sign him.
yeah, he's going to sign with Manny. Um,
Hmm.
I met
What do you think about
you,
him?
I met him about 4 or 5 years ago, and I know he's got his wife or fiance Princess. She was a former boxer as well. I've spent a lot of time. We've been chatting. I was going to sign him up 4 or 5 years ago when he wasn't the star he is now, but he kept
Uh-huh.
wanting to stay in the amateurs. And then I
Yeah.
said, well, if I sign you up, we're going to turn pro. And he said, no, I want to stay in the amateurs. You get an allowance in the amateurs. He was comfortable doing it, and he wanted to go to the Olympics. But now he's too big for me to sign because Manny's going to give big signatures as American promoters. And, I'm an expat Filipino in a way. I live in Australia. I can't sign a fight. I've got to be
Yeah.
over in the Philippines. He's going to be a perfect fit for Sean Gibbons and Manny, and I think he can win a world title because I've seen him fight. He's an exceptional talent, and I remember 4 or 5 years ago he was like a rough diamond, but I could see a lot of so much. He was like a Triple G, Southpaw Triple G getting into life, and he's such a beast, and he's going to be exciting for you guys. And
Yes.
I'm happy that Manny signed him and he didn't get signed to an American company because
Hmm.
it's great. Manny doesn't take the money off the fighters. He gives them money. He does so much for the sport. And I said that to him. I said, if you sign with Manny, you're blessed because he's going to do everything for you. You're so lucky.
Nice, nice. Do you think it's still it's possible for Ymir to be able to catch a fight with the Saul Alvarez, the Golovkin still? Do you think they will catch up?
I think that's a strong possibility, but he needs to. I mean, amateurs. He's had maybe 50 amateur bouts, and it's different to the pros. And he's going to realize that. And I know he wants to have a few pro fights before Japan, and that's in. I think he's going to be fighting in September in America. You'll probably hear a little bit more about that. They're working on that, so he'll
There
go
you
and
go.
fight in America in September, have a few boxing pro fights, and then come back and do the Olympics. So he's going to build
Okay.
up his profile. I think he's 24, 25 years of age. It's going to take 2 or 3 years to get him to that position where you step up to those guys, but he's definitely capable of hanging with those guys, beating those guys, and being a world champion. He's a special talent.
All right. Well, thank you for that. I know I believe you. I think Ymir Marshall is gonna be a champion. And my very last question, you said that you want a rematch with Jeff Horn maybe in the Philippines. Why do you think so? Why do we need Jeff Horn instead of Juan Manuel Marquez or the other fighters to be the last fight probably of Pacquiao in the Philippines?
Look, Marquez hasn't fought for so long and he's retired and he won't do the fight and he wants ridiculous money. So
Okay.
he's these guys. I've spoken to Marquez. I've actually interviewed him. I know that he's very hard to deal with and he's always been that way. And he doesn't want to give Manny the opportunity like Mayweather of going to the Philippines and getting knocked out. He wants to have that bragging right that he won the last fight. That's the biggest thing. I don't see that fight happening because Manny will fight Marquez, but Marquez won't fight Manny. And Marquez now in his mid-40s, he's retired so long that he's retired. He doesn't show any signs of being active. But Jeff Horn, the first fight was controversial. A lot of people thought Manny won the fight. B, Jeff Horn's active and he's still current. And C, it gives Manny the opportunity to avenge what happened and get a win up and do the rematch. That's why boxing's so special, that you get the opportunity to do the rematch, and it's going to be in the Philippines. So Manny's going to have so many Filipino people behind him, and it's going to be such an event because what happened the first time, that people are going to be going, they're going to be tuned in. They're going to want it because Horn, even though a lot of people thought Manny won the first fight, Horn took the belt. That's just the way life is. He won the fight on paper. So Manny wants on paper to get there and defeat and conquer Horn. And what better way to do it than in your own backyard and invite Jeff Horn to go there? And I've spoken to Jeff Horn. He said he'd go over to Philippines and fight Manny any day of the week. He enjoyed the fight.
I saw that.
He enjoyed the fight.
I saw that. He said yes, he'll be interested.
Yeah, he enjoyed the fight. And he said he'll go over. So let's wait and see. Let's hope that fight happens. That'll be a perfect fight for Manny to go out with, and also for Jeff Horn as well, because it'll prove it once and for all what really happened that night. Was it a fluke, or is Jeff Horn really the real deal? Let's have a look. That's why I wanted to see that fight.
All right, maybe you can co-promote it and invite again the Australian basketball team too, like what we said earlier. Dual event. Let's make it happen.
I'll do the basketball side of things with Larry Kesselman. We won't, and let MP Promotions and Al Heyman do the boxing, and we can do Friday and Saturday night Australia versus Philippines. And then Sunday, we all do a big barbecue and party.
There you go. All right. Yeah. But thank you very much, Peter, for all of that insight. I want to give you the last opportunity to say hi or any last message to Filipino boxing fans, and just, any greetings.
Yeah, no, just through this tough epidemic. I know it's tough. Hang in there, hopefully we get a vaccination soon in the next 5 or 6 months and we'll go back to normal. And, always believe that the positives, it's going to be a positive here. Even though we're all going through a tough period, it'll be very positive in the new year, and hang tough. And I'm sure we're going to have clear water, blue skies very soon. And can't wait to get back and see my friends in the Philippines, Jerry Penalosa and JC and Bobby Pacquiao and all the Filipino family.
All right. Well, thank you very much. Hoping to see you as well here in the Philippines. I appreciate the opportunity. It's such an honor to have someone with great experience, a Hall of Fame, on my show. So thank you once again, and I'll see you soon.
Keep up the great work, pal. Always a pleasure to be on your show. You're doing amazing work, and keep it up for the Philippines. You're doing great work. Thank you, my friend.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm just going to end the show real quick, and
Powcast Sports. If you're new here, don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell.